Good morning, everybody. This is the tale of Chemo 2. So, as you will have seen from the last video, Chemo 2 got cancelled because my blood platelets weren't strong enough to take it. So, away we go home from London to Manchester, and we had 4 of the blood plate injections sent home with me, which I had to take one a day. Now, they bloody hurt. Not only going in, they hurt, but it causes your bones to feel like, well, this is what it felt for me anyway. People may have different side effects, but for me, it felt like my legs were now concrete. I just moving around in concrete or whatever crap you want to walk through, but it was tough. Going up and down the stairs was tough. Walking around was tough. It was just tough. But we got through it. Got through all that. Got through the 4 injections. My blood thinners have been doubled. So that's fun. Yeah, so it wasn't a fun week. But here's the problem now. The choices we've got is we've got to go to London again for Chemo 2, but that would have meant going all the way to have their blood test done to potentially to be told we can't have chemo again because my blood platelets, bugger, I'll get that down soon, would be too low. So we orchestrated going to the GP, getting emergency bloods done, getting them results back as soon as possible, getting loaded onto the national and the NHS app so I can see the results, screenshot those apps, send it over to Marsden, and then hopefully they'll get signed off. So first bit of good news, they got signed off. So my blood platelets are back and strong enough to take the chemo, so we're set. It's like a carry-on film. So Thursday morning we leave the house about 5ish to get down to the Marsden to have bloods. So they still want to take their own bloods. They're happy to take the bloods that the GP had done, but they wanted now their own bloods as well. So we still had to leave early to get those bloods done. And good news, everything matched. But in fact, their tests were actually better. Their results came a lot better. All of my markers are improving. Pretty much everything now is in the green. My bilirubin dropped to 24 from 35, which is awesome. The blood plates were in range. Everything was green. There's still a few other issues we've got because this is only the second. I've only had 1 chemo at this point, so now I need obviously chemo 2 to do it. So we did that. Sat down, nurse called us, a nurse practitioner, an absolutely lovely lady, called us into a side room to go over the results. But she wasn't comfortable with me having chemo 2 that day. She felt, when I was initially assessed, the professor says that there's 2 things that they look at. There's obviously the medical side of things, but there's also the person. And this is what I've been trying to tell people for years. It can't just be what's going on inside. It's got to be the individual himself. I've always felt strong enough to do this, so let's just crack on and get it done. And he'd put on his notes that he felt that, yes, the medical side of thing was a mess, but it's, let's still fight it. There's still a fight to be had. So on his notes, he put me down. This lady didn't see that side of me. And to be fair to her, we've been up since God knows what time. We've had to drive to London. I was absolutely knackered. I felt pain in my legs. I was tired. And that must have come across to her. So she was probably the first person that hasn't said, "Oh, Rob, you don't look like you've got that disease." So, yeah. So we had to get her on board. But the more time I spent with her, the more time, and I'll tell you a story in a minute, the more time she got to see me, which was nice. But she was saying at the beginning, she said, like, I just, you look like you could go to sleep right now. And I don't see what the professor's notes have said is translating to you, whereas normally it's the other way around. That you look at your blood's your inside medicine looks at stuff that's going on looks a mess, but you look fit and healthy. She didn't see that. She just thought I was really, really weak at that point. But anyway, we go forward. We have chemo starts, and then we get this lady came in, and she said, "Look, um, I think we need to do a. I'm not happy with the exam on your belly. This hernia thing, I think, is causing it is a problem, and we need to have an emergency. Um, what do you call it? Ultrasound test, and I think you're going to need a chest drain today." So okay, where are we going to fit all this in? So we did that. So we timed it that we had enough time on the cycle on the chemo machine to unplug me, to rush me all the way down to ultrasound. And because the stuff had already kicked in, she had wrapped me round with a towel so I didn't feel any. Because basically, if you breathe in cold, your throat seizes up. So, and she also had an emergency tablet just in case I needed it. Anyway, get down to get down to the ultrasound, have all that done, and the lady says, "Well, I can see a little bit of water, but not enough to cause a concern, and certainly not enough to warrant a chest drain." Yes. She said, "Okay, thank you for that," and then we walk back. Now I'm walking back absolutely fine. I'm walking back to the thing. It's me. I'm holding the chemo machine with me, and we were talking a lot. And just before we got back to the ward, she said, I said to her, "How do you? What do you think about now? Do you think this is? I'm 100% going to beat this thing, but how do you think?" She said, "Look, Rob, I've spent a few hours with you now, and I'm more convinced than ever that if anybody's going to beat this thing, you are." So she's changed her status from "I'm not convinced" to "Yeah, you've got a will and you've got a fight inside of you and you are going to beat this thing." So that was nice. So we sat down, finished the rest of the chemo. I've got an emergency double strength blood platelet injection to take on day 4, which will give me a boost. And then the unfortunate bad news is I've got to come back to London because of all the things that happened on the first one. He wants to see me back in London before he'll release me to home care on the Thursday, next Thursday. So at least that's something. I'd rather obviously not travel away to London, but I get the premise behind it. So all in all, it was a really, really good day. But I've now got all 3 people that sign off these things saying, so I've had 3 doctors now see me, 2 doctors and a nurse practitioner. They're all on the same page that they all believe I'm strong enough to beat this thing. I'm going to beat this thing. And I'll keep you updated on, I'm sure, what may come, some lovely symptoms and side effects after chemo too. So, speak to you soon.